So I'm just going to kick this thing off. First of all, to those of you who are on this call, apparently there are 14 of us, Alex included. And this is the first in a series of meet and greets with the candidates for Oregon Congressional District 2. This is going to be, we're trying something out here. Dick, you keep unmuting yourself, don't you? This meeting has been set up so that everybody is on mute when they come in, so that we don't get a lot of noise cutting out for the folks that are speaking. And so I talked to Alex prior to kicking off the meeting, and she's asked me to be the moderator on this. So the way this is going to work is very simple. People are going to just stay on mute, and then Alex is going to do an intro that was nominally 5 to 10 minutes, but it's up to Alex. This is her meet and greet. And then once she is done with that, we're going to be doing the Q&A. When the Q&A portion starts, we're going to ask people to virtually raise their hand if they have a question. So for those of you unfamiliar with that, in Zoom, down on your bottom bar there's a participants button. And if you click on that participants button, it'll bring up a panel. And down in the lower left portion of that panel is, for most of you, probably an icon of a hand. And you just click on that, your hand will go up. I will see that. And then I will recognize folks, in the order in which they do it. I get it in an ordered thing here. And I will unmute you. You can ask your question, and then I will remute you, and Alex can take it from there. If you don't want to have your face show up on the screen to everybody while asking your question, you are also welcome to open the chat box and simply type your question in there, and we will take those as well. Okay? So again, welcome. And I think at this point, Alex, you're on.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Alex Spenser, and I am running for the U.S. House of Representatives for Oregon's Congressional District 2. And while I wish I could have done this in person, it's wonderful to see you all here. And thank you, Sid, for organizing this meet and greet today. And thank you all so much for spending this time with me. Now, before I move on with my prepared remarks, I would like to talk for a moment about Senator Bernie Sanders. He has withdrawn from the race for the presidency. And whatever we feel about Bernie and all of the others who have withdrawn, we now have a presumptive nominee in Joe Biden. And for the good of everyone, it is time to come together as if he has always been our choice. We need to do what we can to get him elected. We need to act as if lives are dependent on it, because they are. Joe Biden is a good man. He's a kind man who shoots from the hip. He's intelligent and conscientious, and he will be a good president that we can be proud of. And we will have the very first woman vice president in American history. And that's a very good thing. So please, everybody come together, and I will now continue with my prepared remarks. I do very much want to be your voice in Congress. The way I'm preparing for this job is by listening to the individual voices that make up the diverse fabric of our district. I traveled more than 6,200 miles before this virus took over all of our campaigns. Along the way, I met folks from 15 counties, heard from small business owners, retired teachers, farmers, and families. I learned how the problems in one county may very well be solved by the same kind of infrastructure that has been created in another county. From folks like you, I have learned that while ensuring health care from head to toe, access to clean, cold, healthy water, and creating, restoring, and maintaining our infrastructure are all important. Our greatest challenge is healing the divisiveness we all feel on a visceral level. My life has been learning about people, who they are, and what is important. I found that a strong sense of community is paramount to everyone's health, strength, and well-being. I'm ready to work to heal the divisiveness that plagues our beautiful Oregon and our nation. When we solve the problem of divisiveness, all of the others have a chance. I believe we began to tear at the fabric of America when we stopped talking about politics and religion across the dinner table. Then we pulled at those fraying threads when we decided it was okay to agree to disagree. The unifying factor in any relationship is communication. We need to talk about the things that are most important to us. Being vulnerable with our truths. The amazing thing that happens when we are vulnerable is that those we are speaking with then feel the freedom to be vulnerable with us. We deserve representatives that will do the hard work of communication, who understand that to solve a problem, we must first be vulnerable with each other, allowing all of the ideas to live at once. Seeing through the lens of acceptance, we can find a consensus that supports everyone. And if after a day's work we have yet to find an agreement, we go home, rest, sleep, wake to the new day, and begin again. This is the work of minds alive and wanting to do what is best for the American people. It is through this common sense policy, created by talking with you and understanding what you need from your representative in Congress, that we will make a difference together. I will be your voice in Congress. And now, Sid, I'd like to open it up to questions. And I can't hear anybody. There you are.
Okay, our first, there we go. Our first questioner is Gloria Olson. And in a moment, you'll be unmuted. Hello, unmute.
I'll change my view here.
Okay, Gloria, you should be unmuted.
There she is.
No, I'm unmuted. You can hear me now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate this opportunity. I've been thinking a lot lately about what brings us together, because I believe what you say is that's most important. Food and music bring us together. Right now, I'm very concerned about our food supply because we depend on our border friends for so much of that supply. We depend on the ability of our processors to take care of our food supply, but more important, we really need to know that our food is safe and that it's wholesome and that it meets our needs.
Great.
I'm concerned that we don't have what I call a Department of Food and Nutrition or a government state stake in providing for the research and the resources to provide that safe nutrition quality in our food and safe quality in our food. Do you think it's time for us to really look at that need and elevate it to a cabinet position?
Absolutely. I know that the FDA, that was one of the reasons for the FDA coming into being, was to take care of these very real needs. I'm actually reading a book right now that is basically the the truth behind the jungle, the Upton Sinclair book back in the day. And it was bad then, and it's bad now. And we have learned that folks aren't the best at at regulating themselves over time. And so that is a very good place for government. And a Department of Food and Nutrition would really make sense as a cabinet post. I think that bringing someone in that can oversee this as if it is that important, as if it, because it is. We need to look at the things that are in our food. We need to look at the high fructose corn syrup that is causing this rage of obesity all across the country, especially with our young people. Um, Much of the issues with hormones have been addressed in milk, and that needs to continue to be a priority. With the pulling back of the FDA, we don't know what's being looked at anymore. Really, we don't know that things are being cared for the way they once were. I know when my daughter was little, uh, they found that plastics were being put in baby formula coming out of China. And that, that's why the FDA is there, to make sure that those things don't happen anymore. So, yes, I absolutely see a need for perhaps the new department and for strengthening the FDA, if not completely revamping the FDA, because the FDA did lose a lot of its credibility in the time of Reagan, and I don't know that it has rebounded from that.
Thank you for saying that, and I'm going to now go back and sit and wait. But I might say that I believe that USDA has too much power in, shall I say, the supply and the quality of our food supply. And so please really read and learn as much as we can about where it's coming from and how it impacts us in terms of our national health concerns. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gloria.
Okay, next up is Greg Heacock.
You say that we should be vulnerable with each other, and I certainly try to be that way online and other things. But in terms of your campaign, could you model how that might happen as far as you're presenting an issue? Let's say talking about education, talking about healthcare. How do you present that as from a campaign standpoint so that people know where you stand, and at the same time you're reaching out to them in a way that makes them know that you want to understand them as well? Can you particularize that for us?
Thank you, Greg. Especially in healthcare and education, my background is that I was and by the way, this is a leading question. Greg knows me, and he knows what's important and why these things are important to me. And I was a single mom for 10 years. And I still am a single mom, but my daughter is now in college. And through that time, the educational system has been of utmost importance to me, and watching the changes that have been made. I was very fortunate, and I chose early on, while I was pregnant, really before I was pregnant, that I would stay home with my kid and homeschool her for as long as she wanted to be homeschooled. We decided that when she said, yes, now I want to go to school, that we would give her that opportunity. And so I homeschooled her to the 5th grade. And that time was absolutely amazing, and I learned so very, very much. And I learned about the openness of a mind and what it means to listen to a young person and know that they can take in all of the information, that it's all there. And I would actually like to see the tables turn a little bit and have our younger children be taught way more than what they're being taught now. My daughter is in college and taking her first college level biology classes, and for her it's all review, because when she was 4 she had an interest in biology, so I gave it all to her. I gave her a medical school textbook called The Atlas of Human Anatomy, which became her very favorite book. And so she could take it all in. And my whole theory is that when they ask the questions, they can take everything we can give to them, everything we can share with them, because they will retain it. Whether they know what to do with it or not is a whole nother thing, but they will retain the information. And it's proven to be true in in many, many different ways. And so education is incredibly important. While I don't subscribe to everyone homeschooling their kid, I do subscribe to looking at children as individuals. And that brings me to healthcare. And one of the things that I like to talk about when I talk about how things mesh together is the systems theory. So I'm a scientist by nature. I'm a biomedical anthropologist. And when we look at physics, we see in the systems theory that we are all connected. It's not, while it is this lovely ethereal thought, it is also very real scientific fact. We are all connected. We're connected by the systems that we come in contact with every day. We're connected by the water and the air and the whole of our environment, whether it be the food that we eat and what happens to the food from farm to table. All of these things come together, and education is one of those, and then healthcare. So as much as we need individualized education geared towards every person's needs, wants, desires, how they want to be in the world, how they want to grow in the world, giving everyone a good, basic, strong, full education is so very important. And then extrapolating that to medicine. Every person is different. Every person is an individual. And we need to look at healthcare in that way. We need to create a healthcare system that is individualized and that supports everyone. Now, through this journey of being a single mom, after my divorce, I had made this deal with my kid that I would stay home with her and that I would homeschool her. And so I simply learned to live in another way without as much of an income as I was used to. And that afforded me some amazing opportunities. One of them was when we moved to Oregon was the ability to be on the Oregon health plan. By and large, the most efficient, most effective, most comprehensive health plan I have ever been on. And I've been on all of them, from Blue Cross Blue Shield, coordinated healthcare, the whole whatever. Throughout the years, we've all done that dance. And the Oregon health plan, Oregon's concept of Medicaid, is brilliant. It's well executed, and it's already there, ready to go. And so what I would suggest is creating an Oregon health plan for everyone in America, something that's already ready to go. I would change a few things. I would get rid of the people who say no, because we need to start trusting our doctors to know their patients. And if a doctor prescribes a medication, that needs to be what the patient gets. We need to take the profit out of people suffering. And that's what this idea would do. Taking away the management part of the healthcare system, that part that changes the doctor's ideas into something that someone else thinks is what's best for someone who they've never met, that part needs to come out. We also need to expand it to include complete dental and vision and psychological care. And then we've got a plan that covers everyone from head to toe and really embraces the individuality that we hold dear in America. How's that, Greg?
Well, that's not brief, but it goes somewhere. I as you express that, you see that that's something that can be put forward in a campaign in a way that is delivered over the mail or in any other way? I know you've got your campaign statement, but how do you see running your campaign, I guess, within this particular time? Would it be in the method that we're doing right now? Or how do you see this all happening going forward?
Well, this is what we have now. And while direct mail is can be effective, that's a 3-second get to know me opportunity. So you have the time between someone taking it out of the mailbox and putting it into the trash can. They have timed that at 3 seconds. And so that's how long you have to get your message across. It's a very expensive way to campaign. And while that could be an option for my campaign at the moment, I'm looking at other things. I'm looking at television advertising, actually, and I've been doing some radio. And these, I think, these moments where we can actually come together in some way, since we no longer have our wonderful forum system, this is the best. The more of these we can do, the more times I can get in front of people and actually answer their questions and talk to them face to face. That's the best we can do right now. And so the more of this, the better.
Okay, great. Thank you. For those of you who joined us late, if you want to ask a question, open up your participants panel, and down in the lower left, there should be a raise hand thing. We currently have 3 raised hands. We will see them in order. The next questioner is Roger Sabadini, and Roger, you may go.
Thank you, Sid. And Alex, thank you for stepping up and entering the race. How's the audio on me, Sid? Is it okay? Okay.
I can hear you just fine.
Yeah. Well, my question is a very specific one having to do with, you mentioned in your introductory comments, the divisiveness of today's politics. We all know what that's all about. So in that context, if you were in Congress, which we certainly hope that you will be, what would be a single piece of legislation that you would introduce or support, otherwise support, that would garner bipartisan support, and then explain why you would feel that would be something you could get through Congress?
Excellent question. So I was talking with a lovely lady yesterday, as a matter of fact, whom wanted to know about my environmental policies and what I would do. And she has had a lovely idea about looking at water. So water is our unifying factor. Water is the thing that everyone can get around, as well, of course, as healthcare. And right now, they're probably neck and neck as far as things that we can relatively easily pass. And one of the most interesting parts of this is when Greg Walden is no longer in that seat, which one way or another he will be gone. These things open up. They are wide open because he has been the juggernaut in a lot of these issues with healthcare and with water, with the Halliburton loophole within the fracking industry. That has been just so dangerous for all of us. And while we don't have fracking here, we are getting, up in Wasco County, they just dumped some radioactive material. And it's very, very frightening. Dumped radioactive material from another state. So at any rate, water is the unifying factor. And if we were to look at a basic concept of using a new water technology or a new way to look at water and having a policy, something like the KBRA down in Klamath Falls, if we can get those folks together again, which can happen. One of the difficult things about that happening again, other than Greg Walden, who put the KBRA in a drawer and never let it come to a vote, is that the Klamath tribes saw no value in coming back to the table because they gave up so much for that agreement. But it's the Klamath Basin Restoration Act. And when you have been hurt in that way, it's hard to step up and do it again. Now, I have spoken with the leader of the Klamath tribes at length about exactly this issue, and he has said to me that if I am in Congress, he thinks that he can get them back to the table. So that in itself is a unifying factor. So if we could get something like the KBRA passed through Congress, then we can mirror that across, and it works, and it gets proven to work, then we can mirror that across the United States. And that would be legislation that I think that, since I've already got my foot in the door and I've already been working and talking about water all over Oregon, that is something in policy that could happen relatively quickly. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Thank you.
Great. Okay. So now next up is Helen Seidler, and after Helen will be Betsy Warner. So Helen, you're on.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex, for taking on this huge effort. My question is about the rest of OR2 that's not the Western corridor here,
Mhm.
and how you're going to be able to have a sort of heart-to-heart relationship with people in the rural areas. We hear a lot about the urban-rural divide. I'm not sure it's real, but there are obviously differences, and that seems to be where there's a big black hole in terms of progressive policies for our district. So I'd like you to comment on that, and also I would just like to mention that I think water is compelling, but going back to Gloria's question, I would put it in the context of food security, which has other political dimensions and includes water for sure. But that to me seems to be something that would be a good discussion starter for our farming and rural community in the eastern part of the state.
Yes. So like I mentioned in the opening remarks, I traveled 6,200 miles before I got stopped literally in my tracks by a phone call from, the guy canceling the forum down south. And I say down south because right now I'm here in Deschutes County. So what I learned was greatly around water in Harney County, for example, and up in, so I've spent a lot of time in Wasco County, in Umatilla County, and in Harney County. And in Harney County, what's important is water and irrigation, and that they're running out of water. I mean, they're out of water. 94% of their water table is being used for irrigation for crops, mostly alfalfa. And the way the irrigation is happening, upwards of 40% of that is going up into evaporation. And so that's a real problem. Now, the problem stems from the fact that Harney County is built on an old riverbed. So when rain comes from the sky, it doesn't go back into the ground, it runs off the ground. Every time it rains, it's a gully washer. And so, well, when it rains a lot. And so I actually have folks working in Texas to see, I have an engineer friend who is looking at all of everything that's going on and looking at what we've done in Texas over time and seeing what can be done to really change the ground so it accepts water, if there's a way to do that, a mechanical way, not a chemical way. And so I apologize. On top of that, there is there's the fact that these folks are poisoning their families because at the bottom of these wells is arsenic. So one of the things that I am looking at is the idea of putting some of these acres of alfalfa into wind farming, whether it be small scale wind farming that cares for just the area or just the household, just the farm itself, or large scale wind farms like we see out on the I-84 corridor. Because that kind of wind turbine, the big old, they used to scare me, they're so big. The big old wind turbines, the deals that the farmers have made is that they lease that land. So for each wind turbine, it takes an acre of land. And the money from that lease has shored up Sherman County. Sherman County is now solvent for the next 10 years because of the wind technology. And so if we look at that sort of idea and take it into Harney County, I think that we can lessen the drain on the water table. And that's kind of an instantaneous thing. And I feel like I've gone way away from your question. Can you?
It was mostly about how you're going to relate to a more conservative audience than those of us on this call.
Well, it's all about talking to folks. It's whoever you can get in front of and really have a conversation with. And I have lived all over America, and I understand people. I can translate all forms of English. So I am from Texas, and one of the things that brings to the table is that I have knowledge of folks who are rural. I mean, my father's from Sherman, which is 60 miles south of Oklahoma, and so it's the diversity. And you did talk about the urban-rural divide and whether or not it really exists. And while I think it certainly exists in people's minds, I think that it is less prevalent than people think it is, because everyone has a kid that's gone off to college, in another state. Everyone has the neighbor who's come in from California or from Idaho or from Nebraska, or there's so many people from Nebraska and Oregon, and me, I come from everywhere. So I don't think that urban-rural divide is as big a divide as we seem to think it is. I think the main issue is the media that has been perpetuated thanks to Rush Limbaugh, who was actually quite brilliant the way he did it. Because I don't know if y'all know this, and I totally off the subject, and yet it's important because these rural radio stations need things on their air. So if you have, I used to be a radio host as well, and so if you have 1 minute of dead air, that's a $10,000 fine. So what Rush Limbaugh did was say, here, take my show for free and give me this block of advertising time. And that's all I want. Otherwise, you get the show to fill your airtime, which these rural folks are thrilled at that because they don't have to fill that time. And so Rush was the first, and then the copycats came behind, and it became this conglomeration of this negative, scary talk, and that's all people know, and that's all they hear. And so when someone comes along and says, in a common sense way that everybody understands, I see the problems that you're having, let me support you. Talk to me about what it is that you need from me. It goes a long way. When you get in someone's, you know, we can't do it anymore. We can't go door to door and talk to anybody anymore. So I'm really hoping, like, there's a forum that they're still planning to hold. It's just going to be us and a camera guy in Prineville, and it's a Republican forum. And so I'm hoping it happens. You know, everybody else is like, oh, do we really want to do this? I'm like, yes, we really want to do this. We need to get in front of everybody we can get in front of. And the more folks that hear me talk, the more folks understand, you know. And I've been living in Klamath Falls. Klamath Falls is a conservative area. And yes, I was one of the ones, you know, I led the Women's March for 3 years. And every year I wrote my friend's phone number on my arm, the friend who's the attorney who could get me out of jail, right? And so, you know, it was a scary thing to do the Women's March in Klamath Falls. But what I found was there weren't the protesters. There was a protester there, and driving through and meeting folks all around. I didn't ask anybody what their party affiliation was. They would tell me, and everyone I met, save 2 people, everyone I met was a closet Democrat. They're just as afraid as we are to come out into the open and say, hey, you know, I support you. I agree with you. And when I was out in Umatilla County in Pendleton, talking to the flood victims out there, it was devastating. And one guy said to me, you know, you won't like me because I'm a Republican. And he said, it's because I'm pro-life. And he said, well, you know, I do believe that it's, it should really be up to the woman. And so I said to him, you believe exactly what we believe, you know. And so we're not that far apart. We just have to be able to have the conversations. So, you know, the more I can do, the more I can get on the radio in conservative land, the more I can, you know, touch those folks. I think the closer we are to really being able to come together. And when I am congressperson, I will hold town halls in those places so that people will know me and so that I can shake their hands. And unlike Greg Walden, I'll actually talk to them. I don't know how many of you have met Walden, but he can be a little prickly if you don't believe what he believes. So anyway, does that answer your question?
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Next up is Betsy Warner. Take it away, Betsy.
I'm unmuted. How wonderful.
Hi, Betsy.
Hi. Thanks for talking with us all. Based on what you just said about how we can come together around issues, how can you help us all come together around climate change?
Great question. So climate change is, you know, it's the great unifier, and we don't see it as that. And yet that's exactly what it is, because we now have a fire season. I mean, and that is proof positive of climate change. Our water is different. We can't rely any longer on snowmelt to give us water to drink, and to make sure that our rivers are healthy, and all of these things. Again, water. And that is how we bring people together around the environment, is really talking about the real issues that hit people from day to day. You know, if you're in Harney County and your kids don't have water to drink, you have to drink bottled water that you bought at the store or that someone donated to your family, then it's a very real issue. Those people no longer say climate change isn't real. They don't. It's you know, there's the old adage that Democrats fall in love and Republicans fall in line, and it seems to be very, very true. And yet, whenever the Republicans deny climate change, these people are just, they're shaking their heads going, how can I continue to do this? And so that's where we talk. We talk on the level of water. Again, water, water, water. It is the most important thing, the most unifying factor that we have. Not only to drink, but to fight the freaking fires, right? We need to figure out ways to utilize water, to take care of our forests, which is also a water issue, and and understand that everything is changing and it's getting warmer, and it's, there's more rain, less snow, and we need. Okay, so bottom line, across the board with all of the policies, we need to start where we are now. Urban rural divide, forestry, sustainability and production, healthcare, everything. We need to start where we are now, today, and move from there. So when we're talking about forestry, there's this wonderful, wonderful policy that says trees over 21 inches cannot be cut down. That is fabulous, and everybody abides by it, and everybody loves it to a point. So the point being, we now have grand forests that have trees that are side by side, and now they're smothering each other. So some of those 21-inch trees need to be cultivated. And so we need stewardship forestry contractors that can go in and cherry pick the right trees to take out and use as forest product, and leave the trees standing that can grow into old growth forests. We need to find the balance. We need to find a way to support everybody's issues and make sure that that again is supporting the environment. So there are all of these ideas of carbon sequestration. Forests are one of them, and the more sustainable the forest, the more carbon it's going to sequester. It's just the way it is. So that is that is me going into a tunnel going, woo. So how have I done with your question? Where am I on that? Have I helped me?
I think it's a very important foundation, and the policies will have to rest on that foundation.
Thank you very much. And I just want to let y'all know that I know you're here, and yet I get to see you down over here. So when my eyes go down, I'm looking straight at you, but I'm trying to, be cognizant of all of this. Usually when you're standing in a room full of people, you're doing this a lot. So I've really had to learn to,
So right now, it looks like you're looking at me, but you're really looking at now you're not.
I'm looking at you. Right. There, I'm looking at you. Okay, see? I'm
like
looking at your picture down here, and I'm looking at you, the camera there.
Well done.
It's a dance. It's a dance. If you watch the late night hosts, they're having this issue as well. It's very different to play, without an audience. So different. Even when you guys are there, and I can see you in my peripheral vision nodding, which is great. I have to remember to look here and not at you. So anyway, the way of the world.
Okay. As a reminder to people, if you have a question for Alex, go into your participants pane and click on the raise hand button down in the lower left. And right now, since nobody has their hand raised, I'm going to ask a question. This is less of an issues question and more of an electoral question. So 2 years ago, in the CD2 race, there were 8 primary candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a general belief that, other than some people who are kind of Pollyannists, like I tend to be, that Greg Walden was unbeatable, and that this was going to be, it's just, let's at least make him work for it. Jamie came along and pretty much changed that equation. And even though she did not win the race, to at least allow that,
I'm losing you.
they talked to each other during that race. And they even made a pact that, whosoever shall emerge is going to get the full-throated support of everyone else. And they also agreed that there would not form a circular firing squad during the primary season. So my question for you is twofold. Are you talking to the other 4 candidates in Congressional District 2 along lines like this? And 2, other than Walden not running again, what changes do you see in the last 2 years that makes you believe that this seat is actually winnable?
Oh. Well, as far as talking to the other folks, yeah, Nick and I chat, not daily, but fairly often, just to be sure that we're both on the same page and that we both, I don't know that we're friends, but we knew each other before all of this because he applied with Ra's campaign to work with the campaign. And so when I was her campaign strategist, I got to know him, got to interview him, and all of that. So we know each other already, and he's a great guy, and we get along. And in the forum, the only forum, I was going to say the first forum, but the only forum, we really got to play off of each other, which was fun, because it's good to have somebody who is smart and interesting that you can do that with. So he and I are, while I don't know that we're friends, we certainly like each other. We get along, and so we talk. I don't know John Home very well. We just say hi. Basically, it's like high school where you say hi in the halls, And Jack Howard, I've never met. I tried. I was going to be out in La Grande, and so I wanted to have coffee, and he was unable to join me for that. So I still haven't met him at all. And then the new guy, Chris Vaughn, I don't know him at all. Again, this lack of forum is really, really difficult. So we actually have a forum coming up, I want to say, in a couple of days. I'll make sure it gets on my website on the events calendar. So it'll be our first, everybody comes together and talks in the same space like this sort of forum. So hopefully I'll get to know them a little bit better then. But yeah, the way I look at the campaign, I am running for an office. This is a long, fun, incredibly fun job interview. And that's the way I look at it. And I don't really see it as they're my opponents. I see it as I'm looking to get this job, and you guys get to hire me if I am the candidate that you fancy. So the other part of the question, please remind me what the other part of the question was. I wish I had an easy way to take notes. Hello. Where did you go? Oh, I think okay. I can unmute someone if you want to. Sid, are you there now?
Yeah, you were just frozen on the screen. So
I had frozen. Okay, well then y'all take that as the time that I was brilliant. Okay. So what was the second part of your question?
The second part of the question is, what has changed in the last 2 years, other than Walden not running, that makes you believe there is actually a path for a Democrat to become our representative in Congressional District 2?
Thank you. So the the thing that's most important is the awareness of the non-affiliated voters. So the non-affiliated voters are they number more than the Democrats. So it's a very, very winnable district. And like I said, going through and meeting folks all around, I met exactly 2 Republicans. One of them I had an appointment to see. He was the mayor up in Pendleton. And the other one was in Wasco County, and he was second in line of the Republicans, and he was there at the mayor's breakfast. And I think he might just vote for me in the primary, so we'll see. But anyway, it's been interesting that I haven't found opposition. Once people know what I'm about, know what my stance is on many things, especially on gun responsibility, they get behind me. So it's a very winnable district. I see everybody knew Greg, and that was kind of his thing. And like I said, Republicans fall in line. And so I think that more out of, I don't want to say habit, but commitment, people voted for Greg without paying much attention to what he was doing in Congress. And so yes, I think it's a very, very winnable district. And when I peek at what the Republicans are doing on the other side, how they're just beating each other up, trying to out-Trump each other, it's I think that people want folks to come together. I think this creation of divisiveness is the antithesis of what people want, what the folks that I talk to want. Like I said, to a person, it's about the divisiveness. They want to heal America. They want to heal Oregon. They want to be able to walk out and talk to their neighbors again. And I mean, it's a terrible thing. So it's time, I feel like we need to throw up the shades and, go out and shake hands with everybody, and remember that, before all of this, they're that same person, and everybody is important and worthy of our respect and kindness and generosity and all of that. And I don't know if y'all have seen my little video, but so on my website, I now have a list of organizations that are accepting donations to support those folks who need it right now. People don't have jobs. People are not eating. People don't have money for rent. So what I am saying, and what I honestly believe, is if you have money to donate to them first. If you have a lot of money, donate to me too. And if you have money, donate to those guys, because they're doing the work that needs to be done. They're making sure the people who need our support are getting it. So please, if y'all can, Spenser2020.com, go there and look at that. It's Spenser2020.com/pandemic support. That's the page. And click on any one of those guys, or one that you know yourself. And if you have any suggestions for me, please email me at Spenser@Spenser2020.com, and I will add them to the list. So anyway, there I am.
Okay, great. Thank you. We've got one more question here right now in the queue, and that is going back to Gloria. So, 1 second. Trying to unmute you. It's not letting me.
I think y'all are having the game.
Gloria, why don't you try unmuting yourself? For some reason, mine's not responding.
Okay, now you are hearing me, okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for what you have offered us, and for us to have a chance to meet you, Alex. You are a brilliant star on a horizon. So having said that, and now I'm looking to the future. And when we are beginning to run the campaign for the position of taking the seat in Washington, D.C., how can we help you with more than money? But it seems to me that Rachel Maddow likes to talk about this theme. Watch what they do.
Yes.
Don't listen to what they say.
Yes.
I think that we in the community can watch what they do and contrast that to what they say and be in a position to be of support to you in that candidacy. And I would say that for anyone who wins in this district, because we've got a big lift ahead of us. Walden has been there for many years and has created a legacy that I'm sure people are going to be thinking about as they look to the ballots next fall. And that's where I am right now, looking to the ballot next fall and saying, where in this whole process can we be of individual or collective support in providing you with information that you can use in your campaign for that very important position. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. The most important thing is to hear what you need, what is important to you, because whatever is important to you is going to be important to a whole bunch of folks. And so the more information that I can get, the better. The more understanding I have on issues that you know about that I couldn't possibly know about, the better. So please write to me, Spenser at spenser2020.com. Leave your number if you're willing, and I'll give you a call, and we will. People get surprised. I pick up the phone and call. If you don't want me to call you, please do not leave your phone number, because I will call you, and because that's everything. When I know what's important, then I can act, then I can understand, then I can talk to other people and have the knowledge that I need. You know, the worst thing is to not know about an issue. And while, you know, I know a lot, I don't know everything. And I know that I don't know everything. And I want to learn, and I want to learn from you. I want to learn from everyone what it is that I can do to be of service to you. How can I support you as your congresswoman, and as your very first congresswoman ever? So that's kind of cool. So yeah, that's the most important thing right now. There is a video on Facebook that I made, and I am Spenser 2020 on all of the platforms, including Facebook. So if you were to go to my Facebook page and if you were to find that video, and it's entitled "Politician Says Donate to Others First." If you can like and share that, that will go an enormous way towards supporting the campaign. I mean, I know it sounds simple, but playing that algorithm game is everything. And that is the way that my message and my understandings get to people. That's the only way. Unless I share it individually to each person, people don't get it, because the algorithm needs to be fed. And that's how we feed the algorithm. So thank you so much, Gloria, for your question.
Okay, great. Well, with nobody else with their hands raised, we've gone about an hour, which is what I anticipated. I want to thank everybody for coming into this forum to participate in this. I especially want to thank Alex for taking this hour to talk to us and let us learn a little bit more about who she is, and to answer our questions. I would also like to remind people that there's another forum at 11 o'clock tomorrow, and that's going to be with Nick Hewerts. So I invite you all to come back and you know, maybe tell your friends so that we can talk to Nick. And I will be sending out another email tonight. It will go out to both the Vocal Seniorities and Indivisible Bend, who are co-hosts. And then on Friday, we have Chris Vaughn. So again, thank you, Alex. If you have any closing remarks, you should make them now, and then we will end this meeting.
Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone here, and okay. I want to say thank you to everyone here and let you know that I really appreciate this opportunity so much. To allow me into your homes and to chat with you today has been my great pleasure. And please, I mean it, if you have any questions, any ideas, anything, and if you just want to talk to me, reach out. Spenser@spenser2020.com. That's my email address, and I will be. I answer those first. I look forward to it, and thank you so much. Just thank you.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Alex. I think we're going to end this meeting now. Thank you all for participating. Hope to see you again tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.